All right, guys, welcome to Real Estate Hot Takes, episode 4. I'm with the man that supposedly is the best speaker in the game. That's what everyone says, right, Shaun?
I don't know about that, but sounds good to me.
That's what they tell us here, family.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to test them out. We're going to make them eat really spicy wings that apparently you're not good at spice?
No.
Okay, so he's not good at this.
Do you see this Irish complexion?
All right, so we're going to see if he can handle this today, okay? So the rules are, I'm going to ask you a question, you take a bite of the wing,
okay.
Then you have to answer.
Okay, all right.
The longer you answer, Mr. Motivational Speaker,
yes,
the longer you have a break in between the next bite.
All right, we'll see. We'll see.
So, question number 1.
Yes, sir.
What's the key to being a good speaker on stage?
Authenticity.
No, but when you do it good.
I forgot the rules already.
Yeah.
All right. No.
Authenticity.
Yeah, I'm authentically nervous about this.
All right, here we go.
All right. Yeah, I can handle. I got this. We're good.
You sure?
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
It's not terrible yet. Give it a minute.
All right.
I can feel it's going to kick in a minute.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lick my fingers either.
Yeah.
So. All right. Key to that's hot.
It's authentic.
That's authentic. I was going to say, authenticity. That's the key.
You're gonna
I love
good.
this exercise.
You're
It's
gonna
really
be
fun.
good.
This is fun for me.
Yeah.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. When you start to speak, everybody wants to do a good job, right? Everybody wants to look good in front of an audience.
Yeah.
And so the more you are focusing on yourself and how you're doing, whether or not you're doing a good job, whether or not they're receiving it, the less you're focusing on them.
Yep.
And so the less you're, good Lord.
Yeah.
Keep it up.
Yeah.
The less you're focused on the audience and how you're there to serve them, the more you're getting in your own head and the more you get nervous. And so Guy told me one time, a long time ago, he said, well, there's a whole story behind this. My sister was singing at a church one time. I didn't think this was going to change my life, but it did. She was singing at church, and she's nervous because she's got the a cappella part of the song where the whole choir stops singing, and then it's just her. And the pastor comes up to her right before her and says, "Are you nervous?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm really nervous." And so he says, "Okay, well, why are you nervous? Who are you supposed to be singing here for?" And she says, "Well, I'm supposed to be singing for God and the audience and everything else." And he said, "Okay, well, then why are you worried about yourself? If you're supposed to be here for other reasons, then stop focusing on yourself. So if you're nervous, it's because you're focused on self, which means you're selfish. And so the more selfish you are, the more nervous you're going to get. It just gets worse and worse and worse. So authenticity is just showing up as who you are. People are going to either be attracted to that or they're not. And if they're not, that's okay. But the more you are authentic and just stick to yourself and stay out of yourself, the more the audience tends to receive it anyway. So
great first answer.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm known as the king closer.
Okay.
Okay, because I'm really good at closing deals.
Okay.
And like I said, you're supposedly, the best speaker, motivational speaker, getting on stage. This is what Matt Andrews told me.
Okay.
So
All right.
So I love how your first answer was about you utilize a third-party story.
Okay. Yeah.
And we utilize third-party stories when
sure.
we're closing,
Yep.
right? So I want to spin this to real estate a little bit.
Yep.
How do people get really good at coming up with impromptu third-party stories like you just did?
Yep.
Like you were like, dude, this wing is damn hot.
It's
and
really hot.
I need a solid 3 minutes, so I'm going to go with the a cappella singer story. Like, how do you get that good at that?
I had to stop.
Yes.
Eat another one.
It's that moment again.
Gosh, dang it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gave you a good question, though. I mean,
That's a good question.
You should be able to talk a while about this one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help you out.
Oh, that one's not as bad.
Whoa!
I'm ready, man.
Whoa! Holy cow.
Okay. What was the question?
How do you get good at third-party stories?
Oh, it's the stories. Yeah. All right. So stories, like anything, I mean, you got to practice stories. Yeah. And that is one of the things. So I teach speakers. Usually once a year, I do a 3-day speaker training workshop, and I bring in speakers from all over the country, and I show them how to be more effective at closing from stage.
Yeah.
And one of the key things, one of the things we spend the whole second out of the 3 days on is storytelling. And so the reason storytelling, first of all, is so important and works so well is because the audience loses themselves in the story. Whether it's one-on-one or an audience of 1,000 people, they lose themselves in the story. And if you tell a story effectively enough, the people see themselves as one of the characters in the story. So if the story, oh, that one's kicking in now, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get you there eventually.
If the story, that went right out my nose. Yeah. Yeah. So if the story is relevant to them, if they can see themselves as a character in the story, then they no longer are combative with the direction that you may be trying to take them. You got to be careful because you can manipulate people through a story too, and that's not the purpose of it. But if you tell a story effectively enough, they'll see themselves and make it. So think of it like, you ever watch a movie where it's a 2-hour movie, and for the entire 2 hours you forgot about life and time and everything just stood still. You're in the story so deep because there's something in the story that you resonate with, that captures you, brings you into it, and you either want to be the hero, or maybe you see yourself as the villain in the story, or maybe you see yourself as a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And the greatest stories are the one where at the end there's a hero involved, and you get to sort of live through the main character's story as the hero. So when you're doing that in a closing situation, it's in my nose. It's legit in my nose. I don't know how it got in there.
I don't know how it's going to get out either.
I don't either. But when the audience sees themselves as a character in the story and you take them through a journey and they get to be the hero at the end, one of the mistakes that people make is they try to always make themselves the hero in the story.
Yes.
And the key to doing that effectively is make the person in the audience, the person you're talking to, the hero. And if you're selling something like coaching, for example, you get to be the guide in the story, but you never take credit for being the hero.
Right.
What's cool about that is you get credit without taking it. And it's just an effective way to start. So again, the points though, the point of that is if the audience sees themselves, legitimately sees themselves, then they'll start to feel what that character feels. And the more they can relate to it, the more they see themselves as the solution or the hero or whatever at the end. If that can be pointed to your product or service, great.
All right, third question.
Yep.
Okay. Let's say we're in the middle of a close.
Yep.
We tell a story. And we feel like it's falling flat. At what point in time, if you're speaking on stage, you're in the middle of a close, you're trying to buy a house, do we pivot away from the story? Do we just wrap it up and do we get back? Or do we continue down the path and hope that at some point in time the hook gets set?
Great question.
And we get them?
You shouldn't be finding that out at the end of the story.
Right.
You should be asking questions to find out how they feel first, and then your story should relate to them. So this is what speakers do all the time too. They make a mistake. They don't know who their audience is.
Yep.
So they walk in, they tell a story, falls flat. Well, if you have no clue who you're speaking with, whether, again, one-on-one, and it's hard if you got a room of 1,000 people because now you got 1,000 different personalities, 1,000 different desires and all that. One-on-one, it's much easier because you can ask questions. But even in a room, blow my nose down.
Yeah, one-on-one's easy.
Yeah. So when you're in did anybody blow their nose up?
Nope, you're the first one.
I'm the first one. Good. So, but when you're in an audience, you can still poll the audience and ask them questions. I spoke at a Rich Dad event one time, and I came out. They told me it was all of their high-level coaching clients were in this room. There was 105 people in the room, and it was their high-level coaching pro. So I'm thinking everybody in here is closed deals. I'm giving a real estate presentation. I come out, and thank God I polled the audience because all of my presentation was geared towards higher level investors who've done deals. And I said, how many of you in here have done 20 deals or more? Not one hand went up. And I said, these are all people who had spent 50 grand or more on the coaching program. How many of you have done 10 deals or more? No hands went up. And I said, how many of you haven't done your first deal, but you're real close? And every hand went up in the room. And I'm like, good Lord. So you have to shift on the fly.
Right.
And I had to change my stories and the way that they're structured and everything. And by the way, you can do that. It's the same thing. I can tell some of the same stories and make the same points, but the feelings that you might hone in on will change depending on how you poll the audience. So the direction that you do might change a little bit on the fly. That takes practice. But
All right, so you brought up one of my favorite topics.
Yes.
Questions.
Yep.
Okay, so I talk about asking questions all the time. I think it's the most important thing when it comes to closing deals, the ability to ask solid open-ended questions and when to transition to close-ended questions.
Yes.
Okay. Now, one of the things that I'm seeing people that are learning from me struggle with is how to know what open-ended questions to ask and when. Okay.
Right. Yep.
So talk to the people that are struggling right now with asking the correct questions. How do you know what questions to ask and what questions to avoid?
That's a great question in and of itself. So,
I'm sure you really were hoping I would ask something like that while eating that.
yes.
You're like, this would be great if it was a normal podcast, but
there's all kinds of different ways to ask questions. The one I see people doing the most, you ever see the old courtroom shows where they slam the gallery, leading the witness.
Yeah.
That's what most people do. Yeah. They ask questions because they're trying to lead you in a direction. Ooh. Or get to a close instead of asking questions because they're genuinely curious and trying to find a solution. So start there.
Yep.
And so you got to start with genuine, open-ended questions that you're actually interested in. So if you're trying to buy a house, for example, tell me, what is it? What happened to get you to this point where you're thinking of selling the house?
Yep.
And just genuinely and that's a fairly open-ended question.
All right, on that, let's stick there.
Okay.
Tell me what got you here. They say, I got divorced.
Oh.
Now I need to pay off the mortgage. And, we have credit card debt that we need to pay off.
Yeah.
Would you not agree that at that point in time, that seller has basically said that I want to talk about financials?
Maybe.
I want to talk about, at least right now, at least we need to keep on that, because what I see more often than not is, well, what's the condition of the house like right after the seller? That's terrible, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so instead of that, if they're talking about financials, get them to open up about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
So tell me, how long have you been paying the mortgage now that you've been divorced? And did you guys used to pay the mortgage, both of you together?
Yep.
What happened there? Are you down to one income now? How has that affected you? How does it make you feel when you pay that mortgage every single month and there's no money left at the end of the month? And you're building up the value of the importance of selling. And again, their solution might be different than you thought. So a lot of times, I no longer do real estate to the degree that I used to do it. I coach a lot of coaches and speakers and business owners, but I have done a few hundred deals. And I found that the problem that the seller brings to the table is very rarely the problem that they need to solve. There's something about 3 layers deep or 5 or 7 layers deep underneath that. So, they want the most money for the house. Well, why do you want the most money for the house? What are you going to do with the money?
Right.
Tell me what you're planning on doing with how much do you owe on the house? Well, the reason they want so much is because they owe so much on the house. Or, and then you're all of a sudden going in, starting to talk numbers and beat them down. They can't sell it for less than they don't have any money. So you're going after solutions based on what's working for you. You're not curious what the solution is for them. I did a deal with a guy one time that said, I don't want to sell my house, but I'm here because my foreclosure date is tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, why don't you want to sell the house? Your foreclosure date's tomorrow. He said, this property was given to me by my parents, and they told me that the one condition I could have the house, which was free and clear, is that I never get a loan against it. And so he went and got a loan against it to start a business, and the business failed. And so now he's getting ready to sell the house. Well, 10 other investors came in there and tried to lowball him on the house. He owes more than that's not true. He owes just about what it's worth.
Right.
And he's screwed. Well, I just started asking him questions. I wasn't going to just hightail it out of there real quick, and come to find out, I said, all right, well, you're in a bad position. Do you have anything of value that you can sell with equity in it? Because if you don't, this house is going to foreclosure tomorrow. Well, come to find out, his aunt and uncle gave him a free and clear car that was 6 months old. And so he said, yeah, I have this car. And I said, would you consider selling the car? Because you're out of options, dude. You have nothing else of value. And he said, I'd sell that car in a heartbeat. None of the dealerships around here will give me money unless it's a check. And the check has to clear the bank for 10 days. So I can't get my loan payments caught up by the time the foreclosure sale happens tomorrow. And I said, look, you're behind $9,000 on your payments. If somebody were to give you $9,000 to get you caught up on the house, how badly do you care about the car? He said, I'd get rid of that car for $9,000 tomorrow. The car was worth $30,000. So I said, well, let's go to the bank. I said, if you want $9,000 for the car, I don't want your car, but I will take it for $9,000. You need to know it's worth way more than that, but you also need cash right now. And he said, let's go to the bank. Went to the bank. I got him $9,000 cash. He brought the title. I got a car. So again, the solution sometimes isn't what you think it's going to be.
I always tell people, when the seller gives you 3 minutes of information, you need to be pushing for 9 to 12. They give you 15 minutes of information. You need to be pushing for 45.
That's cool.
It's 3 to 4 times the amount of information that they're not going to give you. And it's exactly what you just said.
Yep.
You know, ask better questions. All right, last one. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
If you could give one piece of advice to your followers to change their life, what would it be?
Oh, this is easy.
Not to eat this.
We don't eat this crap.
Yep.
That'd be advice number one. No, so this is what I spend most of my time coaching and teaching now. Why do people get in the business in the first place? What do people tell you as they say they want
Financial freedom, time freedom. Yeah.
And then I always ask people, how many business owners do you know that actually have that?
Not many.
Not many. So everybody, when it boils down to it, they say they want finances, they want to make money. That boils down to I want freedom. If I keep asking enough questions, that boils down to 4 words. Life on your terms. If that's the case, what are your terms? If you don't know what that is, you can't build a business to serve that. So what are your terms? And we help people come through. There's about 10, 11 different categories. And we ask them, what are your terms? If you want a great health life, if you want great relationships, if you want a great business, all these things, what does a level 10 look like in those areas? And if you can't define what that, and most people rattle off a few things, by the way. But if you can't define it and you don't have it in writing and you're not planning with that in advance, the likelihood of you having that's slim to none. And I know this because I did it, man.
Yeah.
I had we were flipping about 70 or 80 houses a year at our peak, which is nothing compared to a lot of people here. But I was working 70, 80 hours a week.
Yep.
And it's like, you know, the goal back then was just make more money and it'll fix it. But every time I made more money, it just got harder. I never had it defined what I even want the business to do for my life in the first place. I know it sounds really corny, but
it doesn't.
But almost no one does it. And I'm talking almost no one from, you know, the guy I work with who's just starting out and wants to make 50 grand a year, all the way up to one of my clients is worth $500 million, and you know, got to the $500 million point and gave up his family and his marriage, and his kids have no relationship with him. And it's like, is that what you built this for?
Right.
And by the way, the whole time he's saying, I'm doing this for my family.
Yeah.
And so, you sure you're doing it for your family?
Yeah.
You ever ask them what they want? And you ever define what for my family means? Or in your head, is that just financial? Because you got all the money in the world to buy everything except the one thing that you don't have that you want the most now, which is your relationship with your kids. And that's not good.
Yep.
So define it, come up with what does a level 10 look like in all these, in health, fitness, in your charity work, if you want to do that, in your relationship with your spouse, in your relationship with your family, all these things. And you got to get this out of your head and in writing, because it will change depending on your mood. And when you've got that out in front of your face on a regular basis, you plan your week with it, and you start with personal first. This goes against the grain of what everybody teaches. When we start planning out our calendar for the week, you put your personal stuff on there first, and you fit work in with what's left. Your business is supposed to serve this, not the other way around. And you do that, you live in like nobody else is.
Dude.
But it takes work.
You crushed it.
Thanks, man.
You're a little red.
I feel red.
Yeah.
I feel.
Remember when
hot.
I asked you and you said, I want more?
No, I didn't. I never said that.
You didn't say that? All right.
I never said anything of the sort.
All right, he did. He did. This is our episode with Shaun McCloskey. Man, you crushed it. You lived up to the reputation.
Oh, thanks, man.
Make sure you like the video and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Good stuff. Was it bad?
Yeah.
Yeah.